0858-858-6600.
Book online at www.connect-ta.com. Connect Time Logistics, connecting the dots in worldwide professional delivery services.
Listen to Aunties Mary, Lottie and Regina on the Family Enrichment Programme on Starr Radio UK. This and every Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m.
Some people are wicked because don't make it your business going about revealing
people's secrets. Don't be a busybody.
And some people.
Today's typical family is under pressure from various directions. Divorce is on the increase. More and more of the Afro-Caribbean youth are taking to crime, etc. The Family Enrichment Programme brings together a team of qualified experts to discuss and shed light on how we can make our families better and stronger. It is said the family can do without the society, but the society can't. Listen to the Family Enrichment Programme this and every Saturday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Starr Radio UK, your favourite Afro-Caribbean radio station in London.
Download our app in iTunes and the Google Play Store.
Listen to Regina Abban and Lady Caroline every Monday from 5 to 6:30 p.m. on Point at Starr Radio UK, where we educate the youth and young adults on life issues.
Do you feel left out in your education or career but still want to do something about it? Then don't fret. If you are a resident in the UK, British or EU citizen, then there is hope for you. You are in the age bracket of 21 to 55. The UK government is offering grants, scholarships, and financial support for first degree to masters in various courses. The government will pay all your fees and you can educate yourself in a peace of mind. From £21,000 per year for first degree, etc. Get in touch with GEM Educational Consultancy and we will guide you in applying for this facility. We are situated at 51 Albany Road, Hornchurch. The postcode is RM124AE. Telephone 079 0479 3019 or email us pastorjoeka@yahoo.com. Get financial support and acquire a degree.
Hello, good people. I'm back again, and this time it's about Mama's Choice Fufu Mix. It comes in 2 flavors and it contains essential minerals and vitamins. It's gluten-free. You can grab one from the nearest Afro-Caribbean shop or the corner shop next to you. Insist it's Mama's Choice. It's certified by both the US and the UK Food Standard Boards. Grab one for yourself today. Mama's Choice. Ubedisa Charlie.
You can't always be in control of what happens on the road, but you can control the tires you ride on. Thanks to Champon Tires, in testing condition, you are guaranteed of traction and grip, be it new or partly worn tire. Champon Tires are the largest import and exporters of tires in the UK. Locate us all over the UK. For Wakefield, contact us on 01924 262 043. Selby, Rotherham, Hull, and Birmingham, contact us on 01709 380-615, or you can visit us at www.champontires.co.uk. Champon Tires, safe when new, safe when partly worn. If you've had an accident in the last 3 years, that was not your fault. Get get in touch with London Accident Claims Limited. It could be a motor accident or workplace injury. You could be entitled to compensation. Just one call to our specialist team will take care of everything. For minicab drivers with PCOs, there is even better news. We provide you with a replacement vehicle. Call us on 0800-032-6798 or 0208-665-7667 to start your claims with London Accident Claims Limited. London Accident Claims Limited, a partner you can trust.
Mama, please stop crying.
Listen to Aunties Mary, Lottie, and Regina on the Family Enrichment Programme on Starr Radio UK. This and every Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m.
Some people are wicked because don't make it your business going about revealing
people's
that
secrets.
that's
Don't be a
sensitive-
busybody.
It is. And some people
Today's typical family is under pressure from various directions. Divorce is on the increase. More and more of the Afro-Caribbean youth are taking to crime, etc. The Family Enrichment Program brings together a team of qualified experts to discuss and shed light on how we can make our families better and stronger. It is said the family can do without the society, but the society can't. Listen to the Family Enrichment Program this and every Saturday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Starr Radio UK, your favourite Afro-Caribbean radio station in London.
Download our app in iTunes and the Google Play Store.
Listen to Regina Abban and Lady Caroline every Monday from 5 to 6:30 p.m. on Point at Starr Radio UK, where we educate the youth and young adults on life issues.
Right. Good evening, listeners, wherever you are tuning from. Time check from our studio says exactly 2 minutes per the hour of 6. That's UK time. If you're actually in Ghana, it's 2 minutes per the hour of 5. But wherever you are, we welcome you to this very important program that comes your way every Tuesday at exactly 6 p.m. And it will be followed by the CEO with Simon Frazier. My name is Frank Davis, and the program is The Questions. On The Questions, we delve much into politics, and especially politics around the African continent and the Caribbean countries. And this evening, we do have a very special guest with us. You know, sometimes I would say people talk, some people are doers, some people are talkers, some people they want to take action, some people just look and just make noise. And other times we say politics, it's only bad people that are going to politics, but again, the politicians make decisions for all of us to follow. In short, most of us who do not engage and do not want to be active in politics only risks some people electing those who make decisions for us to follow. In effect, we engineer our own exclusion from the decision-making process. And we have always advocated that it is good, because even in your house you do politics. Making a decision as to whether to eat kinky banku, bitter leaf, pizza, rice, or whatever it is, they are all decision-making process. And therefore it gladdens my heart when I see people who know what to do, who do not want to remain on the fence again, but want to actively get involved in changing the course of their countries. Our special guest today is a friend to this station. We've known him for some time. He's been a guest on Oscar Bimpon's talk show, the Footprint Talk Show, several times. He's a development consultant. He resettled in Ghana recently, observing and watching what is going on, decided that no, he's not going to sit idle. He's not going to be one of those who will just complain without doing anything, but want to actively get involved. And therefore, he's decided, and again, knowing how divided, tribal politics is in our part of the world, Ghana, where I hail from, where he hails from, where some of you following us now hails from, has decided to take one of the biggest challenges on board. To step foot into the ring, to avail himself, to bring his talent, his knowledge, his experience, his skills, to help in developing Mother Ghana. And therefore, he's decided that come next year, general elections will be held in Ghana next year. We do not know yet if it's going to be in November or it's going to be December. But if nothing changes, all things being equal, on 7th December 2020, Ghanaians will march to the polls to elect who will succeed the current administration. I heard you saying because I said succeed, that means the president is going to lose. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is that his tenure of office will end somewhere on the 6th of January 2021. But we need to elect someone who will succeed him. If he's going to get a second term still, I mean, the constitutional processes has to be followed. And this evening I'll have with me, and I'll be having as a special guest, live from Ghana, Mr. Mare Kofi Gan, who is going to be my special guest. Let me go for a quick commercial break, and when I come back, we will have Mr. Gan as our special guest speaking to us. We want to find out from him what actually pushed him. At what point did he decide, and why that, unlike all others, he decided, look, you know what, this is the time to jump in. What has he got to offer? What has he got that all those in there are not offering? Someone would have said, God, why don't you go to your constituency and be an MP? Why do you want to have a go at the highest seat? So yes, that is what we're going to be looking at today. If you're on Facebook, please do me a favor, share this broadcast, share this with your friends. If you're on YouTube, please do same. And if you're on Twitter, do same. We're broadcasting live on our app, we're broadcasting on YouTube, we're broadcasting on Facebook, we're broadcasting on our Starr TV and on YouTube. So let's go for a quick commercial break, and when we return, Mr. Kofi Gan will be our special guest on the questions this evening.
Are you looking to deliver that urgent package and intact? Connect Time Logistics guarantees reliable, fast, secure, and time-sensitive door-to-door delivery services across Ghana, Africa, and indeed worldwide. Our services include air and sea cargo, vehicle shipping, and excess baggage. Connect Time Logistics has a specialized and dedicated customer service team to ensure prompt delivery to your door. Call our London office
+44 208 291 7575 or +44 208 858 6600.
Book online at www.connect-ta.com. Connect Time Logistics, connecting the dots in worldwide professional delivery services.
You can't always be in control of what happens on the road, but you can control the tires you ride on. Thanks to Champon Tires, in testing condition, you are guaranteed of traction and grip, be it new or partly worn tires. Champon Tires are the largest import and exporters of tires in the UK. Located all over the UK. For Wakefield, contact us on 01924 262 043. Selby, Rotherham, Hull, and Birmingham, contact us on 01709 380-615, or you can visit us at www.champontires.co.uk. Champon Tires, safe when new, safe when partly worn. If you've had an accident in the last 3 years, that was not your fault. Get in touch with London Accident Claims Limited. It could be a motor accident or a workplace injury. You could be entitled to compensation. Just one call to our specialist team will take care of everything. For minicab drivers with PCOs, there is even better news. We provide you with a replacement vehicle. Call us on 0800-032-6798 or 0208 665-7667 to start your claims with London Accident Claims Limited. London Accident Claims Limited, a partner you can trust.
Hello, good people. I'm back again, and this time it's about Mama's Choice Fufu Mix. It comes in 2 flavors, and it contains essential minerals and vitamins. It's gluten-free. You can grab one from the nearest Afro-Caribbean shop or the common shop next to you. Insist it's Mama's Choice. It's certified by both the US and the UK Food Standard Boards. Grab one for yourself today. Mama's Choice. Ubedisa Charlie.
Welcome.
Right, listeners, welcome back. And like I promised you, that when we come back from the break, we're going to have our special guest, Mr. Kofi Gan, Marek Kofi Gan, with us as we ask and we find out from him what actually prompted him to take one of these major decisions that anyone would dare want to take. Kofi, if you don't mind, good evening.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, friend.
How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm well, Frank. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Do me a favor. If you adjust your camera a bit towards your left. Yes, that will help me a bit. Yes, a little bit more. A little bit more. All right, that is perfect. Thank you very much. How have you been? And how is Ghana?
Ghana is well. For now,
Okay.
and I have been well. Thank you.
Good. Good.
How have
Good.
you been?
Oh, I've been great. We've been great doing what we know what to do best. That is to talk. Star Radio. You're looking well, though.
Say that again.
I said you're looking very, very well.
Oh wow, thank you.
Yes, that's good.
God's
That's good.
grace abound.
I thought by now pressure will be on you, and you might have changed shape, but you're actually looking very, very good.
I think I feed well on pressure, so that's good.
Right. Because of time, let's listeners. Time checks is actually 30 minutes past the hour of 6, and this conversation will last us about 45 minutes, 45 to an hour. We might be able to allow calls to come in, but if you're on Facebook, you can start putting your comments there. And those of you on Facebook already, I thank you very much. Share the broadcast. Mr. Oscar Bimpon, thank you very much. I know you are also linked up. We got to know this man through you, and thank you for the good job you are doing over there. Mister, please tell us, who is Marek Kofi Gan?
Marek is a Ghanaian. I was born on a Friday in July. I was born in Keta, right between the lagoon and the sea, so that makes me automatically a fisherman.
Okay.
I actually grew up as one.
Okay.
And I'm very proud of it.
Okay.
I attended Kita Secondary School, and then chartered as an accountant. Worked in practice for a while in Ghana, and then came over to the UK at
Right.
some point.
Kofi, I think your volume is gone down a bit. If you go up a little bit for me again.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Wow. Hold on. Listeners, bear with me. I think there's something happening to his line. Can you hear me, Kofi?
Yes, I can. I can hear you.
Okay, let me see what is happening. Your line seems to be... Your volume seems to be down. Let me see. Your volume seems to be down. Okay. Try it again. Let me see, Kofi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay.
Is that better?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was born in Keta. I attended Keta Secondary School. Became a chartered accountant. Worked as an accountant for a while in practice.
Okay.
And then went into international development, and I have worked in international development over the last at least 2 decades.
Okay.
So that's a little bit about me. I used to be in London once upon a time. I'm no more in London. I'm back home now, trying to pursue a political agenda.
Okay, that sounds good. Are you married with kids and something like that?
I used to be married. I am no more.
Okay.
But we do have kids in between us.
Okay. That's good to know. I mean, politics, a lot of people want to ask a lot of questions. I want to know more about the individual who is aspiring to lead them. Kofi, the last time we were in the studio, we spoke, and I think we've been having conversations. I've read your book. When you came to this country, how you are, basically you are, I've got what I say, you have that spirit of resilience, that spirit that is able to look at challenges and focus on them. Say, I want to do this and overcome those hurdles. That is what I know about you. But when I heard that you taking that step, I was like, is Kofi telling me that he wants to be a president? Not that because you can't do it, but our environment. Tell me, why did you take this decision?
I took the decision for a number of reasons that we all can take that decision.
Okay.
at a point I became very wary of the fact that we have our youth who have not been given the capability to create their own opportunities. That worries me.
Okay.
Um, I have been frustrated by the fact that, we have our elderly who have poured out their blood, sweat, and tears for this country, but when they go old, they are treated like very mega citizens, which they are not. There is a whole lot of frustration, even as a citizen, for people in the diaspora who cannot come back because of the fear that if you come back, you do need to know a whole lot of people for life to work.
Okay.
And that if you do come back, life will not be the same as elsewhere. And then if you look at businesses, there's the whole vindictiveness about if you are if you have any sense around you or anybody links you to any political party, then you cannot do any further business within this country. And so there's a whole lot of things that affect us as citizens. And I, being a citizen as well, these things affect us. They affect our younger generation. They affect even generations yet unborn. And
Yeah.
so if you put all this together, it is very viable motivation for any of us to support this agenda I'm on.
Okay. All right. Kofi, you made mention of, I'm going to go into what you have to offer, those specific reasons later, but I just want to talk a little bit about the decision-making process to get into politics. You actually made mention of the fact that if you link yourself basically to a political party, it becomes difficult, even your business, because of the vindictiveness. Is that what is pushing you to come independent, for the fear that if you actually associate with one political party, whatever you're doing will crumble? Is that a fear that actually push you to declare not just to go into politics, but to go into politics as an independent candidate?
Actually, Frank, the reason to going as an independent candidate was grown out of the fact that, and it is a fact that Ghanaians generally have become discontent with how party politics is being done here. And there is no faith anymore in our party systems. Um, that is not to say that party politics is a bad thing. It's just the way we have done party politics on this side of the green grass.
Okay.
And so it is that discontent that, what people do not, believe in party politics anymore, because it has become the politics of friends and family and close relatives.
Yeah.
And so, that's one of the biggest reasons why I chose to go down this path. The other reason I chose to go down this path is that, our electoral rules are such that they are quite huge in terms of, immediately being able to register a party. You need to have offices in all the regions and be able to man all of those. And a whole lot of requirements around that. So it was crucial that I chose a path that, in the circumstances would work. And hence the independence. So it's a variety of reasons I have mentioned.
Okay, all right. That is fair enough. So basically, apart from the logistics to now start a new party, I mean the constitutional requirement or the rules of the game, which will require you to open offices. Because we have a number of political parties in Ghana. We have from NDC, MPP, APC, and I don't know the kind of political ideology that, or the policies that you will be championing. Are you saying that the way the party system, the political party system is structured today, there's no room to absorb the extra energy, and people out there are looking for an alternative? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, like I said, I don't think the problem is the fact that political parties themselves exist. It's the way we have run them. So currently, as it stands, you are in the UK, you would realize that there's a very clear separation between the politics of winning power
Yeah.
and the business of running a state. Unfortunately, in our context, the two are very closely mixed up. So even when power has been won and there is now the need to manage the state as a business, with a business mindset, you realize that the process of politics still plays a major role. So we don't seem to have that dividing line that says, you know what, we've done politics up to the point where we've won power. Can we now figure out the real business of running a state? That doesn't seem to be very clear cut. So even in the business of running a state, you have a whole lot of politics happening, which should not be so. So it is that inability to separate the two and treat one as a professional agenda and one as the politics that it is, that really is what the problem is.
Okay, so
in my view.
are you therefore suggesting that if we can get into a position where Ghanaians are able to elect an independent candidate who do not have all these kind of links about we work for the party, we belong to the party, we've been members, my grandfather, kind of the godfatherism, the motherism, the grandfatherism within our political system, that if we have someone who manage the country like a business on a business model, we will be able to go further than we are, or we'll be able to do better than we are doing now. You are a development consultant. Is that what you are suggesting?
What I'm suggesting is that we need quite an independency of mindset in running the state, which is to say, if you elect an independent person, he doesn't have an obligation to put all the party people into position.
Right.
So he is free to choose who he feels is the best Ghanaian fit for the job,
right,
to get the job done. Because at that point, it is in my own interest as an independent person to get the best possible people to get the job done. I already know people who we're gonna, get to bring on board to get some of these jobs done. But they are professionals, not. We're if you have an independent candidate, what we are saying is quite simple. You don't get to be forced into a position where the person who made the most noise during your political campaign becomes officially required to be put in a certain position.
Okay.
There is that liberty of process, and we can ensure that when people get into positions is because they are the best possible we can find.
Right.
And not because they are the biggest in the party or they give the most money to the party for political campaign process. So it has its major advantages. The other thing I'd like to say is that people look at independent candidacy with a bad light because that's what a political party is painted to be. But the truth is that if we were to have an independent candidate for the first time in the democratic history of this country, we would be able to have three arms of government that are what we call, that actually have some level of segregation of duties.
Right.
Because as it currently stands, one of them is an extension of the other and vice versa. So we do need to have that separation to say, what, I actually am an executive. I have nothing directly to do with the lawmaking unit of government. And therefore, they can ask me hard questions and I can give them hard answers. And let the Ghanaian people be the judge of what is right in the end. We don't currently have that. Even though that is a structure we set out to portray, it's not what is happening. And we have to face up to these facts.
All right. That is good. But Ghana, let me just go straight to the politics of our country. As much as I do, and a lot of listeners following us this evening on our platforms will know that politics is very tribal. And when I say tribal, I'm not talking of the ethnic groups. I'm talking about tribal in terms of NDC. People want to continue to vote for NDC. You have MP people who want to vote for MPP. They will tell you from the UP tradition. The C people will tell you for U. So basically, we grow into some of these tribes of politics. And if you actually understand politics properly, you ask people to tell you why they belong to MPP or why they belong to NDC. The reasons they give you have nothing to do with their ideology, but because a family member, a father, a mother, a sister, a grandfather belongs to that person, that's the party they have been voting for. Do you think Ghanaians are ready to break from this tradition of tribal politics where they will look at what someone is offering and say, yes, we used to vote for this party A, but this time, because of what you are bringing on board, we're going to follow your idea? Do you think Ghanaians have gotten to that point where politics will be done purely and merely based on what the person has to offer?
Well, Frank, if Ghanaians have not made that decision yet, it is simply, in my view, because they have never been presented with a viable alternative to the NDC and the NPP.
Yeah.
That's one. Now, the second thing I want to say is that, look, when I see 2020, I don't see it as the usual sort of politics that has been happening over the last 27 years, where
Why do you
you
say
go
why
to
do you say that?
polls. Well, because it is fair to say now that Ghanaians are at a point where they can boldly say we have tasted the NDC and we have tasted the NPP for this entire 27 plus years. Ghanaians are in a position to decide whether what they have tasted this last 27 years has added any value to them, and whether they want to continue having the same thing for the next 27 years, and whether if they do, it will take them forward. The truthful answer that is that it will not. And Ghanaians are waking up to that fact. So I think we need to realize that Ghanaians are not fools. They can't be reading as fools for this long. And that I think Ghanaians have just had patience enough to see, given chances to these two parties to get it right. It is obvious, and it has to be obvious to us as Ghanaians, that after 27 years, if it's not working, it certainly is not working, and that we need to move on. The last thing I want to say quickly to that is that you mentioned the tradition of families where people have been used to a certain tradition that says, father voted for MPP or NDC, so
Correct.
child must vote, grandfather voted and all that. But we also need to realize that we have a lot of youthful citizenry in Ghana now, who, even though they are born into the families that have voted a particular line of politics, have a mind of their own, and they're ready to use it, which is something I say every day. It makes me proud to know some of this youth, and I'm proud of our youth, that some of them are willing to take a stand and say, you know what, look, yes, you may be my father, you may be my mother, you may be my grandparents, you may have voted these parties all this while for this many years. I don't know what it has done for you, but I have seen them in the last 27 years. They haven't really done much for me, and so I am willing and ready to make my own choices around who I vote for.
Yeah.
And we are counting on that. We're counting on the youth. We are counting on the discerning middle class. And I'm counting on even the elderly who have decided, you know what, we haven't gotten anything from these guys for this long. I want to make a decision to leave something more beneficial for my children. And so I will vote something or somebody that I feel can deliver that. That for me is the real traction. And not whether or not Ghanaians have gotten to that point. I think Ghanaians are sensible beings. If something hasn't worked for them for 27 plus years, they know that.
Okay, all right. Kofi, that's thank you for that. Now, you when you were making your the last submission, you spoke about 27 years it hasn't worked. In brief, can you just tell me, give me an overview of Ghana as you see it today? Because I believe some of those, or what you see, the picture that you see, or the mental image that you have for Ghana today would have played a part in making that decision that you really want to step in there and see what change you can bring. If someone asks you to give an account or give a summary of Ghana today, What will you say?
Well, for me, the reason why it hasn't worked is that, look, we have a huge potential, massive potential, and I'll start. Um, we have a huge population. Over 50% of our population is made up of youth.
Yes.
Okay. We have a huge population that is made up of youth. By now, our educational system should be equipping this youth to make them ready for the future economy. We are not. And we should be ashamed of ourselves for doing that. We have a health system that is such that um, the economy around funerals is more lucrative than the economy of investing in our health system. That should not be so, and we should be ashamed of that. Okay, we have a huge agricultural potential as a country. In fact, I say agriculture is our winning game. We have not won in that respect, and we
Right.
should be ashamed of that. Um, we have a public sector that is largely made up of a few technically sound people and a huge number of persons who have been added over the years simply because their party won power.
Yeah.
And so our public system is not as effective as it should be. We should be ashamed of that. Okay. Look, we started independence with a lot of countries that have surpassed us. And if that does not make us feel that we need to hurry up and catch up with the rest of the world, then I don't know what else will. And you know, if we can't all see this and decide, you know what, enough of us, just pretending that it's not happening, then we're not going to go anywhere. And that's exactly why I am doing what I'm doing. And this is not about me. This is about me being a voice for every Ghanaian who believes that we can do more than we currently have.
Okay.
And that we have what it takes to get to certain levels within the global economy that others have gotten to in a generation. I think Ghana deserves better than we currently have.
Okay. Ghana deserves better than we currently have, and we currently where we are. Now, Ghana, let me just then go straight to why I should be supporting you. What are you bringing on board that is different and no one has?
Well, to start with, Frank, I am not part of the corrupt political establishment that we need to change. That should be a positive thing for anybody thinking about somebody to vote for in 2020. The political establishment needs to be reshaped. I am not part of that, so I have a lot of motivation to have the political will to change the things that need changing. The other thing you need to realize, Frank, is that I am quite young. Um, it's not like I've gotten to a pension age where I just want to hide in a corner and enjoy my pension. I am still young. My family is still young. If this all goes well, it means that I will benefit in the process, and my younger brothers or my friends who, have children, they would all benefit in the process. Every Ghanaian who is young will benefit in the process. If it goes wrong, as it is already going, it also will affect me. So I am right in the middle in there. I am in this kingdom. And so I have a greater motivation to get this right than any other person who is going to be putting themselves out there in 2020. Because look, all there is Ghana. That's all we have left. We don't have the privilege. Most people don't have the privilege that if things continue to go down this way, they can pack their baggage someday and just get out. I have a huge motivation to get this right. Even for myself, it has to get right.
All right. It has to be right. Sorry. We need to get it right. Granted, the other thing is, let's assume that you win political power. In the 100 days that you be in office, what will be some of the critical areas that you will tackle, and what will you do?
Well, the first thing that is very huge on my agenda is to deal with the indiscipline and corruption that is with it. And so, in my first 100 days, one of the big things I want to get done is to make sure that discipline is restored, whether in society or within the institutions in the public sector. We do need that discipline in order for things like our policies, that the plans we have to be able to be delivered or executed in the right manner to have the effects we want them to have. Otherwise, it'll be like pouring water in a leaking basket. Sorry, were you? I can't seem to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, now when you talk of discipline, when you speak of discipline, what exactly do you mean by discipline?
Well, look, Frank, all you have to do is to drive on the roads in Ghana, for example, to have an understanding of what indiscipline is.
Okay.
And if you see what happens on the road in Ghana, you can extrapolate that to, you know, that is sort of like a central merging point of our entire society. So if you can see what happens on the road, for example, I mean, it's just one of the examples I'm giving you, but if you can see what happens on the roads in our society, you have a clear idea the level of indiscipline across board. Somebody jokes that, you know, if you go into a country and you want to see how ordered the country is at every level, just look at how the behavior pans out on the road.
Okay.
So there is a huge level of indiscipline, and it is stemming from the fact that corruption is easy to get done and get by with without fear that you will be caught, or fear that you will be punished for being indisciplined or being corrupt. That needs to stop.
Okay.
That needs to stop with all ruthlessness that it deserves, because it is tearing our economy apart. It is making us very unattractive to business. It is making us very unattractive to the international community. So we do need to clamp those things down and bring some sanity back.
Okay, that's fine. You need to do that. I mean, let me just link what you are saying with what Blessed Beyond Belief had just sent on social media, Facebook. He said, but Nana Addo echoed these same concerns when he wanted power. Yet Sikasu suggesting solution, overhauling the whole system. How are you going to make institutions and system work, please? That is a question that is coming from Blessed Beyond Belief.
Right. So thank the person for the question. Yeah. I don't know what Nanado's motivations are. I know what my motivations are.
Okay.
That's one. Two, I am not being, this is not about bringing in or coming into power with a lot of party folks and the requirement that because they have supported you, you need to place them in positions. That's where the corruption in the public sector starts. Is the fact that you have placed somebody in a position because you owe them something.
Right.
And therefore, if they are getting something wrong, you cannot change that. I want to coming into power with professionals, not people that I owe anything to.
Right.
If somebody gets taken on to get a job done, it's because he's the best fit for getting that job done.
Yeah.
And so there is that social contract that if they are not doing what is required of them, they can be fired. Okay, that's one side of it. I do feel that the constitutional requirements that we've had do need to change in a lot of ways, especially where it comes to the sole power of appointments. There's too much power in the executive for making appointments, which means that, look, you can make so many appointments. At some point, you're gonna have to, defer, and that's where people get in, and you get all sorts of people throwing their own people in there. We've already had some constitutional reviews done, and up to now, no president has been bold enough to say, you know what, let's try and push through all those requirements that the constitutional review has suggested. I want that to be done.
Okay.
And I want that to be done not because And the reason why I want that to be done is quite simple, is that it keeps even me as the executive in check. A bit of my background is I have worked in internal controls and audit and all that. So you would imagine that I'm used to having controls in place.
Okay, now let me
work
come
in
in.
an
Let me
environment
come
where
in, then
people
take you
can-
back a step, because we're looking at a situation here where you spoke about discipline. I believe is very key. Now, if you look, and again, you made mention of our constitution. It's also very key, because some of us believe that entrenchment in our constitutions needs to be looked at, and we make certain opportunities to actually reform or change some of those constitutional provisions. Now, when we come to discipline that you made mention of, one, we will need a sector, the police administration. Now, currently, if you ask me, the faith that Ghanaians have in the police administration is very, very low. You go to report a crime. I'm not saying they are not doing their best. They're doing their best, but we still got a long way to go. Now, let's take the police administration, because to instill discipline, you need the CID, you need a police administration to be able to function effectively and efficiently if you need to achieve that. What are some of the changes you would like to see in the police administration, and how we
Very,
appoint? Yeah.
very, very easy, Frank. The truth about the police is that it's not that we don't have fine men and women in our police service.
Right.
My view is that the police have been overly too, how do I put it? There's been too much interference from political quarters within the work of the police.
Right.
Okay. That is something I hate with a passion, and something I would do anything to see a change. The other thing that we need to get the police to do right is in the area of recruitment. We have to have our best in the police service. We shouldn't have a situation where getting into the police service is sort of a last resort for a career. That is not what it's supposed to be. I mean, you live in England, you have some of the sharpest people in our police.
Yes.
We have some very fine brains in our police. What I think we need to get done is, one, I want to see very minimal, political interference within the work of the police.
Right.
And it is to our advantage that that is the case. Number two, we want to ensure that, recruitment, this whole recruitment we've done where we say we have a whole long list of protocol people who need to be brought on board, that has to change as well. The third thing I want to see change within the police is that, look, the police need to be brought up to speed in terms of training,
Okay.
and especially training for them to see themselves as people right in the middle of the need to deliver customer relationships. Okay. I know Ghanaians are listening. Look, some of the police officers we have now need to be reoriented.
Okay.
They need to understand that they are there to provide a service and not to do buga buga.
Okay.
Okay. So we need to reorient the police. And I don't blame the police in any of this. The police are supposed to have continuous professional development. Whether that is happening now or not is hugely up for debate. So across the police, there are a lot of things that we need to support them with to get them to the level that we want them to get.
Ghana, before last question on that aspect, because I think it's very, very key. Because if we're going to tackle indiscipline, we're going to tackle crime, even the fight against corruption, if we do not have a very good police CID system, whatever, or if we have that institution politicized like the way we do have now, I'm not talking about NDC or MPP, we do have. If it's an NDC in power, they politicize it. If it's an MPP in power, they politicize it. That we know. Now, there's a constitutional provision that makes it such that the president appoints the police IGP. Will you support removing and reviewing of that provision where the police administration will be truly independent?
Frank, what I want to say two things about that. Yes, I agree that if the police service was, or the appointment of the police chiefs was outside the remit of the executive, then yes, it will cut down on the level of political interference within the police service. So yes, that is a good idea, just talking about it. However, the police need to be involved in that conversation. Okay, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who are going to be put in charge of delivering order within society. So, as a matter of fact, they need to have a role in having this conversation. And so, even though it may be my personal preference, even though it may be my personal preference, I think it is just justifiable that to move forward with such a provision, that the police are involved in that conversation, civil society are involved in that conversation, the generality of Ghanaians have to be involved in that conversation. Um, Having said that, I must also say this, Frank. It is actually possible for the executive to um, uh, be the one who puts a police head in position and still not have political interference. It is also possible. I just think it's the nature of the people we've had in power and how hungry they are to manipulate all areas of our society that really is the problem. So yes, on a personal level, my position is that we want to do everything possible to make the police as independent as possible.
Okay.
But they must be involved in that conversation too.
Okay, all right, that is fine. Thank you. Now, the other major problem that confronts the people of Ghana, and in fact, if you you want to go independent, like the way you are, not that if you want, you are not independent as far as president for the country. Youth unemployment is a very huge problem, and I know you've always spoken and talked about the disconnect between the labor market and our education system. Now, what will you want to see? What changes would you like to see at that front that will result in jobs for our youth?
Well, Frank, let me start by saying, people talk about youth employment. The truth is that youth unemployment, when you see youth unemployment, it is just simply a signal to you that certain elements of your society aren't working well, or your governance structures aren't working well.
Right.
So youth unemployment is an indicator of a lot of other things. One of them is education. What I want to see as a change in education is that education at all levels begins to focus on competencies and not the theory of things. We want to focus on competencies. And I'll tell you the reason why we want that to happen. We in my team, we say that education is our weapon of mass elevation. It's the one weapon that we can use to elevate a lot of people out of, this whole unemployment thing. And when I talk about education, I talk about it in a very passionate way. I want to see education that is competency based, and I'm talking about curriculum that is competency based. I want to see teaching that is competency based. So, for example, even at university level, I want industry to become a part of the curriculum process, so that when people are leaving tertiary education, for example, they are leaving tertiary education being equipped with exactly what industry wants. I want our learning infrastructure, and I don't just mean classrooms. I want our learning infrastructure to be structured in such a way that they deliver competency to people going through our educational system. I'll give you an example. And I always like giving this example. I'd like to see an accounting student who is leaving tertiary school being able to use at least one or two tools that he's going to need to use when he gets out there into employment. And I want to see that across board, any field of study. The reason why we want to do that, Frank, is that we need to stop this agenda where if you leave school and you cannot find a job or be employed, you think that your life is over. Okay. We have to give our youth another opportunity that says, you know what, get out of school, yes. Is there a job waiting for you? Yes or no? If there is a job waiting for you, great. If there is no job waiting for you, you actually have the competency to start looking into your society and looking at the problems that exist and creating
your own opportunities around that, solving problems. That's the kind of education we want. Now, you talk about unemployment. Another way we want to solve unemployment is through agriculture.
Yeah.
And so, look, we don't just want an agriculture environment where people just grow. There are several components of agriculture we want to develop.
But
we want to develop
the current government is doing that. They talk of planting for food and all those stuff. I mean, every government is doing that.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying, Frank. We're talking about planting for food and jobs. I don't just want people to plant. You know, the youth of today are very dynamic. They're using their heads. They want to do more than just go to the farm, get dirty, and come back. They want to do more than that. So we want to reshape how agriculture is done. We want to do agric that is linked directly to food processing, so that people can begin to do something that they feel is more meaningful than just growing crops.
And is that not the same thing like the current president say, one district, one factory?
Well, the question you need to ask me, Frank, is whether that is happening.
Okay.
And at what rate it is happening. Okay, but nevertheless, I'll let that government answer their own question, because that question should be posed to them. As far as I am concerned, I don't see a lot.
Okay.
But that is the problem. We believe that industry is all about just coming and building one big factory. We forget that we have indigenous industry that can be supported to expand. And if we're not looking at things indigenously, then we're not looking at things at all. So we want to have, food processing as a big part of agri. We also want to bring agro-technology into the picture.
Right.
There are a lot of young people there who want to do technology and who might just be inspired to do technology from an agricultural perspective. And it has two advantages. It keeps those youth employed, but those technologies would also help us become more efficient in the way we do our agriculture.
Right.
So everything should be interlinked, and that's the way we develop economies. Okay, so there's a lot of areas that we will be creating jobs for the youth. Another low-hanging fruit that we haven't exploited very well over time is in the area of tourism. We really have not done much with tourism, and we should. We have everything we need to make tourism blossom. It is one of the lowest hanging fruits. And if you're doing development, Frank, one of the fastest ways you think about developing your economy is to look out for those areas of the economy that are not underground.
Yeah.
Currently, everything we are exporting is largely from the ground. You have to dig to get minerals out and then, process them before you ship out. The same applies to all the other areas, largely gold and bauxite and all that, and oil and all that. Whereas you have, things like tourism that actually are overground. It's easy to monetize and it's easy to expand. And those are the sort of things we want to bring into the picture and begin to develop areas that have been low-hanging and left undone.
Okay, all right. Gani, let me come back to you. Listeners, thank you very much for joining us. For those of you on Facebook, I acknowledge all of you. I see all your messages. People on Facebook, please continue to share. Gan, we're talking about policies. We're talking about what you do differently. I have a question here from... let me, before I come to, is it Kathy Cook? She said a question about, I have Razak also who have said something over here. But there's a question about whether you have money to be able to do the campaign and how you're going to finance the campaign. Then there's another question. It's not a question anyway. It's a comment that, look, I don't get any solid policy formulation in all that you have said. Now, what will be your flagship policy as a campaign tool?
Well, Frank, look, we have to be, we've had several flagship policies. The question we need to be asking ourselves as Ghanaians is, which of them has moved us forward? I think we need to start facing some realities and stop this whole thing about, flashy names and flashy projects and deal with real issues that we need to deal with.
Right.
Our educational system is in a mess. We want to correct the curriculum. We want to correct the way we support our teachers to teach some of these subjects. We want to correct the way our learning infrastructure are delivered. Those are practical issues that are on the ground that is not helping our education move forward. There are issues I have mentioned in a Greek, which are the reasons why we're not moving forward. So for me, it is not about, any big, hairy logo names that we want to publish. We want to deal with real issues that will move our country forward.
Right.
A lot of the countries you see moving forward don't come out and flash out, big chunky names all in the name of politics. It's about getting the real job done. And so I quiver when people say, what is the big ticket thing that you want to do? I am here to solve problems. And I think as Ghanaians, that should be our focus, because we've had all these flashy names in the last 27 plus years. The question we should be asking ourselves is, which of them have actually moved us forward?
The other thing I would like to chip in. The other thing I would like to chip in.
You don't hear about any big policies. If all that I'm talking about is not doesn't sound policy enough, then I wonder what is.
Okay, now let me come to you. You will know that you are not the first and you will not be the last independent aspiring presidential candidate. Most often than not, the independent candidate that we've had will start rallying youth around, call themselves that they're independent candidates, and then with no time, you see them basically joining other political parties. Some will say they've been bought out or whatever it is. Assuming you are offered to partner a candidate or to be absorbed into a political party, what will be your position?
Frank, you know me by now.
I know you. I know you, my listeners.
I value Ghana.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know people will say they've heard this before, but I can assure Ghanaians I am not here to join any other political party.
Yeah.
I am here to get a job done that should have been done several years ago, many years ago. It's not getting done. And if it's not getting done, I don't see... somebody would have to tell me what really is the justification that I should go and join institutions that have had 27 years to get some things done right and haven't gotten them done right. Why would I want to go and join them? What, to continue what they haven't done right? I'm sorry, that is not my line of action.
Okay.
And if you've known me, Frank, I'm not cut out like that.
Okay, all right.
Thank you for that. I stand for something, and I want to continue standing for something.
Okay, thank you for that. Before I come to our concluding part, it's almost 7 o'clock now, and in UK 6 o'clock, and we will be finishing pretty shortly. We'll be bringing. This is not the last time we're going to have a conversation with Kofi. This is just the beginning, where we might look take sector by sector to look at exactly what exactly he will do if he's given the nod as the president of Ghana. Kofi, as an aspiring leader, I am not going to let you go without asking you this question, which is trending in Ghana now. Assuming you were the president, you heard about PDS, what is happening? PDS, right? The what do you call it? The electricity company and their saga. What do you think of that? And what will have done differently?
Frank, if I was the president of Ghana, we wouldn't even get to this point.
Let's assume that people under you actually set this up and you find out what will you do differently. And what do you think of the whole situation?
I think a lot of things were done wrong.
Yeah.
I think, look, the point, I don't want to get into the conversation around why they did what they did or how they did what they did. My position is quite simple. We had funding from the United States through MEDA to get something done for our benefit. Why on earth the executive would allow people to get in there to own shares of that process without making any financial commitment, when in fact we actually know that the ECG, one of its biggest problems is that it's cash strapped? Why people would get into that process or even be allowed to get into that process intentionally, without any access to funding on their part, and yet we would allow everything to go through the way they have, beats my imagination. That for me is enough proof. If Ghanaians want any extra proof for 2020, that should be their biggest proof. What I want to say, however, is this, Frank. If I was the president, I don't think this would even happen in the first place. I don't think it should happen.
Now that is happening,
So,
what would you have done?
well, the point I am making is that, look, why would it even happen in the first place? Why should it happen in the first place? And that's what governance is about, Frank. You prevent what you suspect can happen from happening. And if you can't prevent it, then you try to stop it from happening. Look, as it stands, I'll tell you what. There are individuals in there who, for the life of me, I do not believe have what it takes to bring up the cash to be able to make their part of their shareholding part.
Okay.
There are viable businesses in Ghana. In fact, we even have some state institutions who are cash rich and who should be brought on board to support this process, not people who have been brought in simply because they are friends of the executive or friends of the brothers or cousins of the executive.
Right.
So look, this is purely a matter of morality. It is nothing beyond morality here. And I think we need to call it for what it is.
Right. Finally, how is the campaign going?
It's just started. I mean, we're getting ready to launch into 2020, but we're already on the ground. We're beginning to get into communities. And for us, it's about asking Ghanaians who believe that something needs to change to join us and make that happen. So, if can I just use your medium to say, look, go on to whatever Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and look for Gan for Ghana, spelled Gan, Gane, and the number 4, and then Ghana, all spelled together. Find our pages, support us, join us. We need to do this together. Tomorrow we're screening a video. It's a similar interview. I feel it's a detailed interview that would give some hope to Ghanaians moving forward into 2020. So I encourage everybody to log on at some point and watch that interview. But whatever happens from this point, let us all agree and accept that Ghana does deserve better. And so let's join forces and make this happen. This is not about the NDC or the MPP or about Marek. What we need to do in 2020 is to decide for ourselves whether or not we're happy with everything that has happened in the last 27 years plus. And if we are not happy, let's be bold enough to change it. Let this happen in our lifetime.
In case you don't win and you are invited to serve in whoever wins, will you accept that invitation?
We'll cross that bridge when we get there, Frank.
Is there anyone out there that you would like to give a shout out to before I say goodbye to you?
Well, generally, I'd like to say hello to pretty much everybody who I have known in the UK. There's a few of them: Kwame Asiedu Sapong, Dr. James Osborne Nanjo, James Solomon, and the whole crew at Restoration City Church in London. I value your support. I value all your prayers, and keep praying that this is a brighter day. So to everybody, friends, everybody who's I've known in the UK, I want to say hello and keep supporting us.
Right, Gan, from our listeners and on behalf of our production team, the whole technical team right in the studio here, I would like to say thank you very much for honoring this invitation. And this is not going to be the last time we have you on this platform. We're going to follow your journey as we gear towards election 2020. Listeners, what we can guarantee is that we will be out there. Ghana election is what we're going to be following because we know it's going to be a very crucial election. We'll follow it all through, and Ghana is going to be one of our guests. He is going to be appearing on this platform so many times. So this is not the first time you've heard about him, and this certainly is not going to be the last time. And I would like to say thank you very much for coming on board, and have a blessed
Thank you,
day.
Frank. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Right, listeners, all too soon, we've come to the end of yet another edition of the questions. Next week at exactly 6 p.m. the UK time, we will be right here with another guest. This program focuses on policy and politics across Africa and the Caribbean. So next week, we're going to bring you a guest. And this guest is coming from Zimbabwe. We're going to bring you someone who is making something big in Zimbabwe. A woman. We've heard about Mugabe's era. That era is gone. We've heard about land reform programs and other things. This lady is a leader not only for the Zimbabweans but for the whole of Africans. He's into farming. She's into farming. About your pardon. She's doing very, very big in farming. She's been invited all across African countries. She started from nowhere. She got in there during the land reform. She got some land for herself, and she's made it count. Next week, we're going to be having her on the show as our special guest. Tell a friend to stay tuned to Starr Radio UK. Coming up next at exactly 8 o'clock, we're going to be having Simon Fraser. Simon Fraser is hosting Lydia Simon, who is actually a creative consultant. She used to live in London, relocated to Dubai. We want to find out from her what life is all about out there, how she's been able to build her empire from nothing to where she is now. Thank you very much. My name, Frank Davis. See you next week, same time, 6 o'clock on the questions. Tomorrow morning, do not forget, Archie will join you at exactly 10 a.m. after the breakfast news from our partners. Thank you and enjoy this music coming your way. It says, politicians have pity on us. And this is coming from Timaya for those of you.
It's not Biggie Mano, it's not Pomano. Hello Nigerian, so she be on the enemy, don't be waiting them be talk. This was not what they promised us, so them tell us that they go bring the change. Oh no 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 no. As the thing they go, situation is just a bad. As they break, things is just a hard. No food to chop. Every day dollar they rise. See the people done they cry. Oh no 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 no. Pity for us. Pity for us. Politicians please pity for us. I beg we they beg. See my people done they die. Please pity for us. Politicians please pity for us. Oh no 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 no. I believe in Nigeria with all my life. I pledge to Nigeria, my country, with all my heart. Anywhere I go, na Naija. Anything I do, na Naija. Anywhere I go, to Naija. See, my house is not for Naija. I invest in my Naija. Everything I plan for Naija. Politicians show some love. Oh no 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 no. Pity for us. Pity for us. Politicians have mercy on us. I beg we dey beg. We don't care the thing done the bad. Please pity for us. Politicians please pity for us. Oh no 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 no. Oh hey Naija. As we sit down, they complain today, our God cry full for our body. As we there for here, we they complain our only food for our body. Oh, hey, search your conscience. Oh, we serve we no good. Oh, make we live right. yo. Their children they overseas. Pity for us, oh. Pity for us, oh. Politicians have mercy on us, oh. We don't need that, yo. Anything we do, oh. Please, pity for us, oh. Politicians have mercy on us, oh. Oh no 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 no. Hey, this is painful, oh. Oh, am I maker?
I have been compelled to sing to this rhythm after seeing all was one in Africa. One more time, please.
Under pressure, we will. Under pressure. Under pressure, black people under pressure. Under pressure, Nigerians under pressure. Under pressure, Africans under pressure. No food, we belly. No money in our pocket. No bed, we ate. The people, they must suffer. In a ghetto, in a city, everywhere that me go. Me see them, some are cry, some are die, some are weeping, some are wailing. Everywhere that me go, under pressure we will, under pressure, everybody under pressure, black and white under pressure, Europeans under pressure. Can't get no food if you go feel with belly. Philippine you too, no have no mother. Philippine you too, no have no father. Philippine you too, no have no brother. Philippine you too, no have no sister. I'm a kimono, me just chatting to you. Chanta this, I want me not go chat it all day. Under pressure we will, under pressure.
son? How's school? You have to take school seriously, okay? Yeah? Respect every human, but trust no one. You don't want to take you for food. Life not easy. Life not fair. Not easy. What? What you want from me? Where you go, man? What go? I mean, you have what go? We never go, man. Where you want, man? Where you want? What, man? What you want, man? Motherfucker. That's what I want. Take it. Spend your life. Happy go. Spend your life. Me have a song. Me have a song. Spend your life. Of you, man.
I'm overdosed with music, super scary. Hi, Shatawale, I come like a kite. Hi, Shatawale, come like a kite. Hi, me come to them like some kakai. Hi, Shatawale, come like a kite. Forever and ever, I'll be a soldier. Forever and ever, I'll be your leader. Forever and ever, I'll be your teacher. Forever and ever, I'll be your father. Aye, call me your IGP. Salute to me anytime. Yes, I'm master. Call me Duncan Williams or Mensa Waterbill. Hallelujah. I no go fit dog you, cause I know say I they love you. I be your father. So we don't waste no time. Money we account every time. More dollar. In the boy, oh, Tago just get my shining quabo. Chuchu trouser. Mogo quabo, go lay, I no longer do never. Yeah, that border. So me, I humble myself. Anyone me step man down to the earth. Shut up, me see, I'm a big booty girl. So me scared, I'm like, huh? Hi, Shatawale, I come like a kite. Hi, Shatawale, come like a kite. Hi, me come to them like some kakai. Hi, Shatawale, come like a kite. Forever and ever, I'll be a soldier. Forever and ever, I'll be your leader. Forever and ever, I'll be your teacher. Forever and ever, I'll be your father. Wale, they come perform so go back home. Wale, they run the show and them back so. Wale, they make the door and them bow. Wale, shout out Wale. I dey shock like electricity. My brain is bigger than Mississippi. Larry for Vienna City. Say Shatawale, you are Sisiki. A cheap a lago straight up and down. Six shatta who you giddy. If you be too no, then shatta be far no. I dey love every girl when I see my shot oh. I dey see my dream, I dey see my dream, me want hope. Hi, Shatawale, I come like a kite. Hi, Shatawale, come like a kite. Hi, me come to them like some kakai. Hi, Shatawale, come like a kite. Forever and ever, I'll be a soldier. Forever and ever, I'll be your leader.
Rasta, Rasta, Rasta. Rasta Congo, yeah. Rasta Congo, 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 Congo. Congo, Bongo. Ah, yeah, Rasta, Rasta, Rasta. Rasta Congo, yeah. Some of them are say, them are the Christian man, hey. Only for them say, them are the magician man. The Rasta man them say, yeah, yeah. Them are the righteous one, hey. Moriah and I no say, we are the Nazarite man. Oh my Lord, Jaja, come on and save I man, hey. The Rasta man them, the Congo Bongo man, oh. Why yo, why ya 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 ya, oh. Why yo, why ya 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 yo. Rasta Congo, 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 Congo. Congo Bongo, aye, Rasta, 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 Rasta Congo, yeah. Rasta Congo, 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 Congo Bongo, aye, Rasta, 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 Rasta Congo, yeah. To put this big war right, the Rasta man must come, yeah. Respect the Rasta Congo and let the chalice a bone. I wa 8 to 5. We are go stay alive. Whatever you come fi do, we are go sure survive. We are go praise the far right with our reggae vibe. The Rasta man them the Congo Bongo man, oh. Why yo, why ya 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 yo. Why yo, why ya 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 yo. Rasta Congo, 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 Congo Bongo. Aye, Rasta, 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 Rasta Congo, yeah. Rasta Congo, 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 Congo Bongo. Aye, Rasta, 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 Rasta Congo, yeah. Rasta Congo, Congo, Congo.
ne fais pas chercher. On y est, on lève les mouchoirs.
champion d'Afrique actuellement? Qui est champion d'Afrique? C'est la Côte d'Ivoire. C'est plus la Côte d'Ivoire. On dirait j'ai oublié. Hein? Non, mais de toute façon, vous avez hérité de notre coupe. Les Camerounais sont là. Champion d'Afrique. Voilà. Echani yamo, yezizo blazo. Aïbemou, kokule, baliye. Eneli ene, enobale. Aïbemou, kokule, baliye.
And what shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world yet loses his soul? Hey. Just in case you don't like my message, you can't deny the beaten quiet down. To the left, to the right, to the left, to the right. Let us dance together now. Say, things are not the same anymore. Please don't speak, I accept me. Things are not the same anymore. Please don't speak, I accept me. Things are not the same anymore. Please don't speak, I accept me. Things are not the same anymore. Please don't speak, I accept me. Amaba Yeswe Mahoy, Agbamana Puna, my Maoba, Yeswe Mahoy, Agbamana Puna, my Maobo. Anamadon Kungo Yesu, Wanam Chila, Yaraka Mali Magloni, Nebe Magloniba Akpa, Ayatamaba Yeswe Mahoy, Agbamana Puna, my Maoba, Yeswe Mahoy, Agbamana Puna, my Maobo. Ododio Nahu. Nahu. Yesu wetu chada, toya oto amareke mate mwachio. 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 Amaba Yesu wetu chada, toya oto amareke mate mwachio. Yesu wetu chada, toya oto amareke mate mwachio. Tonya omiba, miba mejo omya Yesu go, tonya oto na Yesu. Chikadeke manchomya po, auba tuada onya. Ala rusi planya, ala Muhammad kama wana sio, ayo tono Agachi pesa sawo kuju kuju, yatami kafuma udatae. Yesu wetu chade, kuya wakama deke mate wanchio. Tonya umiva, miva mijo nyani Yesu go, kenya odo na Yesu. Shikadeke manchomya mo, auwa tuada unya. Ala rusi planya, ala Muhammad kama wana sio, ayo tono Agachi pesa sawo kuju kuju, yatami kafuma udatae. Yesu wetu chade, kuya odo amareke mate wanchio. Ododio. Mwachio, Yesu wetu chade, toya oto amareke mate mwachio. Amaba Yesu wetu chade, toya oto amareke mate mwachio. Yesu wetu chade, toya oto amareke mate mwachio. Tonya umiba, miba mijo ya Yesu go, tonya oto na Yesu. Chikadeke manchomya po, auba tuada onya. Ala rusi planya, ala Muhammad.
This is Sky News Tonight. Our top story, Hong Kong on the edge of the abyss. Warning today from its leader before airport clashes between protesters and the police. The claims of agents and interference from mainland China and disruption again at a busy international hub. Tonight, President Trump says Chinese troops are moving to the Hong Kong border. We'll bring the latest on an escalating situation. Also on the programme, the end of the search for a missing teenager as the body of Nora Quarren is found in Malaysia. Boris Johnson banged up as the Prime Minister pledges more money for prison security, the warning of the scale of the violence inside.
I can beat you with batteries in a sock. Yeah, do you know what I mean? I've seen people get, you can sharpen up soap, yeah? You put razors in soap, yeah, and then run up and slash somebody's face.
Turning round the tanker, the Iranian claims denied that the standoff may be about to end. And the soldier and terrorist united in warning 50 years after the start of the Troubles. Very good evening to you. President Trump has tweeted tonight that China is moving troops to the Hong Kong border. It follows the latest clashes between police and protesters, in which travel at the former British colony's airport was again disrupted amid violent scenes. One man, who protesters claimed was a Chinese agent, was tied up and later taken to hospital. Our chief correspondent Stuart Ramsey witnessed the scenes at Hong Kong Airport.
People kept arriving on international flights and arriving into the airport to absolute pandemonium, and goodness only knows what you would think if you'd had a 12-hour flight, for example, and you sort of wake up and groggily come off into that. It has closed down the airport for departures because of a fairly sophisticated but very simple operation by the protesters of just literally going and blocking the way through security to go airside and to go to board. 2 people were taken and bound up with cable ties and beaten up. One gentleman, at about the same time that the police first arrived, was got out by paramedics. That then left the police asking for the other gentleman to be handed over to them. When it was clear that they weren't going to get any deal out of the protesting groups, they decided to withdraw. And at that point, many people came outside, attacked them, and I think that the riot police were actually deployed to help at least 2 buses get away that were full of officers and were getting dangerously close to getting the doors kicked in, and they came to help them, and they were very heavy-handed. A lot of very well-armed and very determined officers came in, ran downstairs, and appeared to pick up people that they had been looking for. It didn't seem to be random. Some special forces, police were brought out, and they oversaw the sort of the final section of this as the police got themselves protected behind them by these special forces, getting into the trucks and leaving. That then brought about the dramatic, and I think it's fair to say, rescue of this individual, who they say was a policeman but had Chinese paperwork on him. But he was rescued by paramedics, and they got him out and they got in the ambulance. He was in a lot of trouble. We were getting reports for some time before that he was pretty poorly, and paramedics clearly felt they needed to step in and do it. Now, this looks terrible, of course. You lose all moral high ground if you do this type of thing, beating up a person, tying him up, and that will have perhaps ramifications for the reaction of the authorities, the reaction of Hong Kong, perhaps even of some of the protesters. As it stands now, for the time being, it's really, really quiet. There's hardly any left. The police could come in and could take control. I don't think they're going to. Key thing now, the question now is, are they coming back again, trying to make it 3 in a row to close it? I can't believe the authorities are going to let it happen again, but maybe it is almost impossible to stop. I don't know.
Well, the protests have seen millions of people voice their anger at the Hong Kong government, with protests running since the beginning of June. One of the major flashpoints in the crisis was a month later and saw protesters storm the Legislative Building, raising questions about the actions of the police force. But since yesterday, the airport has become the focal point, leading the island's chief executive, Carrie Lam, to warn that Hong Kong is teetering on the edge of the abyss.
用1分鐘去諗一諗，睇一睇我哋呢個城市。
Take 1 minute to think. Have a look at our city, our home. Do we dare to push it down into an abyss and see it smashed into pieces? The only thing we need to do now is to reject violence, safeguard the rule of law, and restore order in our society.
But let's just show you some of the latest pictures that we have of the situation there at the airport. And obviously the scenes earlier on today were particularly disturbing, with that violence breaking out. The riot police moving in, but being obviously facing off against these sort of scenes, with things being thrown and indeed the police vehicles being stopped in their tracks. But as we heard from Stuart, there's obviously concern that the protesters perhaps are losing some moral high ground because of the violent actions they've taken against two particular individuals who the police and ambulance services did manage to get out. Well, amidst all of this, President Trump has tweeted that the Chinese government is moving troops to the border with Hong Kong. Let's talk to our US correspondent, Cordelia Lynch. It seems interesting that the president is in some ways sharing some pretty detailed intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't expect the President of the United States to share so publicly an intelligence briefing that was actually given, of course, in private, but we have come to expect some pretty unorthodox behaviour from Donald Trump. He'd remained relatively quiet on the issue of the Hong Kong protest, despite the fact that from both sides of the political aisle, we've heard from Republican and Democrat politicians showing their support for the pro-democracy protesters. But then Donald Trump waded into it today, saying that, according to his briefing, he believed that there was military activity on the border with Hong Kong. He also retweeted a video that appears to be something that actually we saw a few days ago that was shared by a Chinese newspaper there. So we've had no official confirmation of it yet, but Donald Trump clearly in his intelligence briefing has been told that China is ramping up its presence on the border. Just as he was about to take off to Pennsylvania, he was asked about the situation, and here's what he had to say.
Well, the Hong Kong thing is a very tough situation, very tough. We'll see what happens, but I'm sure it'll work out. I hope it works out for everybody, including China, by the way. I hope it works out for everybody.
Sounding an optimistic note there, Donald Trump, but the State Department has gone further, expressing some of the things that others wished Donald Trump had said, saying that China needs to respect the agreement after the 1997 handover. The State Department said that China needs to allow the city to exercise a high degree of autonomy. There's quite a lot going on behind the scenes here in the relationship between Beijing and Washington. Donald Trump went back and has delayed some of the tariffs on certain products that he was going to impose. He says that's because he didn't want any disruption in the markets and a cost to the consumer handed down over the festive season. Others say they know, and he recognises that this could damage him, and so he's effectively backtracked, and that China now has a lot more leverage in this situation. I think we can expect to hear a little more from Donald Trump on this situation, but an illustration, I think, in the timing of his comments and the rather kind of generic tone that we're hearing from him is that he's not deeply engaged with that situation in Hong Kong and the pro-democracy protesters, but certainly there's plenty in his party and many more amongst the Democrats that want to hear him take a more forceful stance on this.
OK, Cordelia, thank you. Well, the protests in Hong Kong very likely to feature in the papers tomorrow. We'll have a first look at the front pages in our press preview tonight at 10:30 with the CEO of the New Economics Foundation, Miata Fambule, and The Sun's political editor, Tom Newton-Dunn. Now, it's the news that the family of Nora Quarren had feared. Today, authorities found her body just over a mile from where the schoolgirl went missing. Police still keeping an open mind about what may have happened to her. They will hopefully get more answers when a post-mortem examination is carried out tomorrow morning. Laura Bundock reports.
A heartbreaking scene as Nora Quarren's family arrives at the hospital. Her grief-stricken parents here to identify their daughter's body. After an agonising 10-day search, it is the worst possible outcome.
The family has been brought here to identify the body found today, and they have confirmed that the body is Nora Ann, who went missing on the 4th of August. A post-mortem will be carried out tomorrow.
Nora's body was found next to a stream in a remote forest, just 1 mile from the resort where she was staying. Specialist officers were called to the scene after reports a body had been found.
It's about 1:57 today. One of the search and rescue team was alerted that they found a body, which is about 2 kilometers away from the resort. So the area is quite hilly, and we sent our forensic team and the pathologist to the scene of crime.
The family had only been at the Malaysian resort 1 day when Nora went missing. Her parents say her disappearance was out of character. The 15-year-old has severe learning difficulties and had never wandered off alone before.
Nora!
Hundreds joined the search for her. The police said it was a missing person investigation, but her family feared she'd been abducted. They offered a £10,000 reward for information and said their hearts are breaking. It's not yet known how Nora died, but a post-mortem will be carried out in the morning. There remain many unanswered questions, and although their search is tragically over, Nora's family are still desperately looking for answers. Laura Bundock, Sky News.
The Prime Minister says the UK cannot allow our prisons to become factories for making bad people worse. So he's announced a £100 million investment to boost security, with airport-style screening to be introduced in an effort to stop contraband from getting inside. Labour says the money falls well short of what is needed to make meaningful change. Our People and Politics correspondent Nick Martin reports.
Another day, another big policy giveaway from the new Prime Minister. This time on a visit to Leeds Prison, promising money to buy more X-ray scanners and metal detectors to help crack down on crime behind bars. And Mr Johnson seemed surprised to learn of the various methods used by inmates to smuggle materials in.
Yeah. So what is that? Is that inside? Yes, that's what he's ingested.
All this new technology will come with a hefty price tag.
What we're doing today is putting 100 million into scans and to checks of all kinds to protect the staff and to stop the prisoners bringing in, to put it bluntly, in their alimentary systems, drugs or mobile phones.
Since taking office, Mr Johnson has been here, there and everywhere, talking about anything from fast broadband for all to 20,000 extra police officers. But not everyone is convinced.
Do you believe the promises, or is this perhaps laying the groundwork for an election?
I think it's more in the latter category. Of course, any government that is going to put community safety policing at the top of the agenda is the right thing to do. But in terms of the record over the past 10 years, it's hardly one that we can have much confidence in.
Prison security is the latest in a series of measures, which will all have to be paid for somehow. And so it is perhaps no surprise that Mr Johnson is honing in on law and order. It is, after all, a big issue when it comes to general elections. Stacey Bell helps to support offenders once they're released from prison. She's got a specific request for the Prime Minister.
Just fulfilling what he said and making sure that there's money there to help, to improve things in prisons, our sector, well, over the sectors that is, promised as well. Then if it does and all comes together, then we won't have no crime in jails anymore, and, drugs will be halved.
Among young voters, there's a caution. a wariness.
Is this electioneering, do you think?
I think it is, and I'm very sceptical about the promises being made. Having 10,000 more prison places and 20,000 officers is not going to tackle the causes of such high crime rates.
It's not as easy as just saying, oh, I'm going to give all this money to this area of work, because the money might not be there. Like, it's more complicated than that.
There is no election campaign officially, but if there was a warm-up to one, this is probably what it would look like. Nick Martin, Sky News, Leeds.
Well, violence inside prisons in England and Wales has become more widespread because of cuts to budgets brought on by austerity. That's according to the Shadow Justice Secretary, Richard Bergen. One of the worst cases in recent years was the prison riot at Swellside in Kent in 2016. The prison population in England and Wales is now just below 83,000 people. Last year, incidents of self-harm rose by 24% to almost 58,000. Assaults across the prison service went up by 11% to more than 34,000, whilst assaults on prison staff went up 15% to 10,311, a record high. So how much of an impact will the measures announced today actually have? Noel Phillips reports.
Welcome to Swellside! Come on, bro.
This was HMP Swellside in 2016. The footage filmed on a mobile phone by an inmate shows prisoners taking control of part of the jail. Riot police were called in and the disturbance was contained, but the underlying problems remained. Paul spent 6 years in Swellside and says he carried a weapon for his own protection.
How does someone who's serving a prison sentence get their hand on a weapon inside a prison?
So easy. Anything. I can beat you with batteries in a sock. Yeah? Do you know what I mean? I've seen people you can sharpen up soap. Yeah? You put razors in soap. Yeah? And then run up and slash somebody's face. Do you get what I'm saying? Push a bar of soap into the face with the razors in it. Yeah? Do you know what I mean? Paper clips, yeah? You know, paper clips. And they tie razors around it and they strap it around your neck and try and hold you as, like, you know, like hostage.
This former gang member fears that the Prime Minister's plans to introduce airport-style security and X-ray scanners won't be enough to stop weapons entering the prison.
Most of the crime are happening away from where these metal detectors are going to be. If someone lives next door to you and they come out with a melted toothbrush and cut you around the face or throw some hot water on your face, how does a metal detector protect you?
Sky News has discovered that the problems inside HMP Swellside became so profound earlier this year that governors were forced to take drastic steps.
These internal documents, written by the governor to prisoners, provide a glimpse of just how violent the prison had become. The availability of weapons inside what should be one of the most secure institutions led to the governor holding a weapons amnesty and offering inmates impunity from prosecution. We asked the Ministry of Justice just how successful that amnesty was, but they said no data was available.
Figures we've analysed show 803 weapons have been confiscated from prisoners in Swellside since 2015, with 45% found in just the last 12 months to March of this year. That means a weapon is being found and confiscated every day. And there's anger from the Prison Officers Association because they weren't even consulted about the weapons amnesty.
I think it's reckless to go ahead with this at this minute in time. It sends the wrong message to prisoners that it's okay to have weapons in their possession, which is a criminal offence. And the reality is that with impunity, if they hand them in, nothing will happen.
The Ministry of Justice defended their actions in Swellside, saying that weapons amnesties are one of the many measures they use to remove illicit items from prisons and reduce violence. The challenge for the Prime Minister is to show that his tough prison policies can stop scenes like these. Noel Phillips, Sky News.
Now, the Prime Minister today conceded that getting a free trade deal with the United States would be, in his words, a tough old haggle. But Boris Johnson says that's not his main priority.
There are all sorts of opportunities we have to open up trade with the US, but that also goes for countries around the world. But, well, you're right, the single biggest deal that we need to do is a free trade agreement with our friends and partners over the Channel.
Well, let's talk to our political correspondent, Lewis Goodall, who is here. We've heard for ages now, haven't we, President Trump telling us we've got an easy ride when it comes to trading with the States.
Indeed, and we've heard lots and lots of positive noises from the Trump administration. John Bolton, the President's National Security Advisor, with his meeting with Liz Truss today, saying that, as far as he was concerned, that we would be at the very top of the queue, as opposed to what Barack Obama had said, front of the queue for a trade deal, saying that perhaps we could have a series of mini little agreements to get going pretty much from November the 1st if we left without a deal. On the other hand, I mean, there's a couple of caveats with this. It may well be that the Trump administration has particular abilities to ease trade a little bit or make it a little bit easier in the event of a no-deal Brexit. But of course, it's not just up to the Trump administration, because Congress has a say in all of this. The Republicans in the Senate are very friendly towards the idea of helping us out with regards to a trade deal, and they control the Senate. But then on the other hand, then the House of Representatives, the lower house, Nancy Pelosi, Democrats controlled. She's the Speaker of the House, and she's been very, very clear over the last month or so, backing up comments from the Irish American caucus, who are very, very irritated and in very close contact with Dublin and Leo Varadkar at the prospect of any return to a hard border. They think the British are acting irresponsibly towards their mother country of Ireland, and they've said, the Democrats in Congress, that they would not authorise any trade deal until such time as an agreement were reached with the European Union. So we'd be waiting at the very, very earliest, assuming they make good on that promise, until a new Congress is elected at the end of 2020, and then we'll have a new administration in 2021.
The Prime Minister, as we heard in that clip, saying, well, actually, his focus is trading with the EU and how to make that work. We're not seeing any sort of progress on that. We're not seeing any movement in that direction, are we?
No, indeed. I mean, the Prime Minister being very clear there, perhaps surprisingly so to some extent, making it clear again, because he could just come out, as we might expect, saying, oh, going all gangbusters, it's fantastic, let's go for the American trade deal. But he was being a bit more circumspect there. And it is still the government's policy. It's easy to forget as we go through these dog days of summer. It is still the government's stated policy to get an agreement with the European Union. The problem is we're in this standoff, to go slightly further down the North American continent, the Mexican standoff, because we've got on the one hand, we've got the Prime Minister saying, well, we won't talk until the European Union says that they are willing to compromise and just remove the backstop. The European Union is saying, well, we're not going to do that under any circumstances, and so there are no particular plans to get the firm negotiations going. The Prime Minister is going to meet with Leo Varadkar, the Irish Prime Minister, but that's pretty much it. He's been Prime Minister for, what, about 3 weeks now? Still no meetings with senior EU officials, still no meetings with other major European leaders. I have to say that as we go by, every day that goes by, I think the prospect of a soft Brexit, if you like, a deal, just become ever more diminished.
OK, Lewis, thank you. Well, this is Sky News Tonight. Still to come, a warning from a former British soldier and a former IRA prisoner 50 years after troops were first deployed to Belfast.
Are you looking to deliver that urgent package and intact? Connect Time Logistics guarantees reliable, fast, secure, and time-sensitive door-to-door delivery services across Ghana, Africa, and indeed worldwide. Our services include air and sea cargo, vehicle shipping, and excess baggage. Connect Time Logistics has a specialized and dedicated customer service team to ensure prompt delivery to your door. Call our London office
+44 208 291 7575 or +44 208 858 6600.
Book online at www.connect-ta.com. Connect Time Logistics, connecting the dots in worldwide professional delivery services.
Welcome. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of The CEO, the program where we are constantly empowering ourselves. Tonight's guest is a young woman who I've known now for over 20 years. I remember the first time we met. She had her big drawing pad with her. She always seemed to be a woman on a mission, armed with a violin and always very creative. It was in her blood. I always knew, I remember thinking actually from a very young age, wow, this woman is going to be someone great one day. Talking about bravery, talking about faith, talking about a spirit of a lioness. When we talk about all those things, a woman in particular comes to mind. And this woman joining me in tonight's CEO chair is Miss Lydia Simon. Lydia.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Wow, all the way from Dubai.
Yes, all the way from sunny Dubai. I'm really happy to be here.
It looks as though you brought the sunshine with us.
I hope so.
You have indeed, because it's been pouring with rain. So listen, Lydia.
Yes.
I introduced you by saying, you know, and wasn't a lovely introduction, by the way? Did you enjoy that?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much. You make me look so good.
Well, what a friend swore.
Yes.
You know, but literally, I wasn't just being kind. I remember thinking from a very young age that, wow, you always seemed like a woman, a young girl on a mission.
Okay.
You know, always very purposeful, you know. Now, tell me something. When did you're known as a creative consultant.
Yes.
Yes. Well, you're known as many things, a teacher, creative consultant.
Yes.
But tell me, when did your love affair with the creative arts began?
Well, I mean, from a young age, you know, I remember my mother, you know, we take inspiration from our mothers and our parents and the people that are significant around us. And, you know, I remember, you know, my mother taking myself and my siblings to the museum, you know, or the museums in London, the Science Museum, you know, the Natural History Museum, the Victoria and Albert Museum. And what she would do, she would actually sit us down with a pad and a pencil and said, you know what, draw the exhibits. You know, and I remember feeling so inspired in, you know, in these creative spaces. You know, I remember walking away with these wonderful drawings on my pad and thinking one day, you know, I want to do something creative. So I felt so inspired from such a young age to...
How old were you?
Well, I was like, you know, probably around 9 years old. You know, my mother would just leave us sitting down in these museums and, you know, I just felt so inspired.
It's fascinating because that's the same thing that I do to my children. I've
Good.
been taking them from a very young age, 3, 4, and we do go to the V&A, the Childhood History Museum as well. It's funny for me as a mother, I go there and I think, right, this is something to keep them busy and to actually give me also a little bit of respite.
Yes.
I don't know if that was your mother's plan, but how amazed she must be now to see how those simple seeds, what fruits they now bear.
Yeah, you know, I think, I don't know what she was thinking at the time, whether she was trying to get some rest, yeah, palm us off to the museum staff. However, you know, I do see like the benefits of her early input, and where I am today, and I must give credit to her.
Brilliant.
You know.
So let's fast forward somewhat. Okay, so you were 9, you had that early influence as a child.
Yes.
And then how did you know? Because you know you're at school. There's so many different options that's presented to you.
Yes.
When was that light bulb moment that you said, this is it. This is what I want to pursue?
Well, you know, this is a bit of a personal story. This is something really close to me, but it was an actual fact. It was out of adversity that I actually discovered my creative ability. You know, one day I remember going to school, you know, primary school, and they said to us, we are going to change the whole routine in the classroom. We are going to mix an upper year and a lower year. And what they did is they put me down a year. And I immediately, I just thought within myself, no, I can't accept this. So I remember going home to my mum and saying, look, you know what, I don't like what's going on here. I actually want to move school. I actually made that decision. And from the next day onwards, my mum had a list of new schools.
Amazing.
You know,
so she was a very responsive
She was
mother.
a very responsive.
On the pulse.
On the pulse.
Wow.
You know, and she had got these lists of schools in the area, and she had done her research, and she had actually gone to see the headmaster, and I was quickly shifted into a new school. But that was
in the appropriate year band.
In the appropriate year, not a year down, which is what I would not accept.
Yes. So you were feisty then.
I was very feisty. You know, I was my own CEO at that age. You could say that.
Yes.
You know, I took charge of my own destiny, my own education. You know, I wanted, I had a vision, even at maybe 10 years old. And, it's so important for us to listen to our children. You know, they actually see a lot more in terms of their destiny than we can see sometimes.
Wow.
You know, and, I went into this classroom and it was a completely different setup. But I noticed like all the paintings and the drawings on the wall and the creativity in the classroom. And again, I was so inspired, and it was from that point onwards that teacher saw my creative ability, and she started entering me into competitions.
Wow.
And I had won the Putney Arts Festival after that.
Oh, wow.
And that was the start of my creative journey.
At what age?
That was about 11 years old. No, sorry, about 10 years old now.
Wow.
That was 10 years old.
That's quite interesting what you've just said there, because, teachers get a pretty bad rep nowadays.
Yes.
And, I don't know about you, but certainly, just like you've mentioned that teacher, for me, there's always that one standout teacher that seems to make a difference in your childhood.
Of course.
And you never forget her or him, Was this a teacher for you then?
Yes, this was a teacher. Her name was Miss Subhan. She was right from the heart of India. She was Sari. It was something different for me. I had never seen something like that before. And
so she sounded quite colourful and quite eclectic.
She was very colourful but very firm.
Yes.
But it's something that I needed at the time. So and she would,
So she steered your direction.
She steered my direction, and she nurtured me for the big steps I needed to make for the rest of my life.
Wow. Okay, so at age 10, coming, by the way, from humble beginnings, am I correct? Because I know that your parents were immigrants.
Yes,
isn't
of course.
it?
Yeah, immigrants.
Tell us a little bit about that, actually.
Well, my mother, she came to the UK because there was an opportunity for nurses to enter the NHS system.
Right.
They were building up the NHS system at the time.
Building the empire, the motherland.
Building the empire.
Right.
And they invited people from the Caribbean islands to come and, to come into the NHS system. So she went into the, came over from Trinidad and Tobago
Mm-hmm.
and went into the NHS and became a professional nurse.
Okay. And your father?
My father, on the other hand, came from a smaller island called Carriacou, part of the Grenadine Islands. Some people may think, where is that?
Yes.
But it's
They haven't had a bolt come out of there on Bob Marley, shall we say. But they've had your dad, so.
Of course, And, again, he worked as an accountant,
Yes.
coming to the UK. So it was such a new environment for both of them,
Yes.
And again,
And I guess they came here with great promise, not
They
only
came
from the
here-
motherland, but also to deliver
Of course.
on their vision.
Of course, they
Right.
did.
Okay. And so fast forward, they've come, they've instilled certain traits within you, and provided various, creative environments for yourself. You're one of how many?
I'm one of 5.
5.
Yes. I'm the
Okay.
middle of 5.
Wow. Okay. So how did you balance then? Was there, or did you find it challenging being seen or being heard in a amidst 4 other siblings and being that middle child syndrome, so to speak?
People often ask me this question, and
Yes.
my parents are really good at giving us an opportunity to speak individually.
Brilliant.
I remember those times where we used to have family meetings. I mean, come on,
Yes.
like at
Yes.
7 and 8 years
Yes.
old, we have a meeting in the
Yes.
family, and
Yes.
they used to ask us how we feel about certain decisions, and
Yes.
that was my opportunity to have my own voice,
use your
So I think they were really good at that. Yes.
Brilliant. So you found, that you started your love affair with the creative space and the creative arts at a young age, and then at 10 you won this Putney Prize.
Yes.
How did the rest of your creative spirit start to manifest under the guidance of this teacher?
Well, I think from that point onwards, she had a very good reward system in the class. So every time you did a good piece of work, she would reward students with a star. And she had a star chart for all the students. And I was so determined to fill up my chart with all the stars,
Yes.
But most importantly, I think that, it kind of nurtured a very fighting spirit within me to do my best and to achieve really high. And that's something that I've carried, I would say, for pretty much for the most of my life, to always do things to my best. So I think her early input nurtured me for the rest of my educational and for rest of my education and career.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I remember, we weren't in a very affluent school, shall we say?
Yes.
It wasn't an affluent area at all.
No.
And I remember though that you really kind of, there was a lot of blacks as well in our school. Blacks, it was a good melting pot, to be honest, of what Britain was back then in the 90s. Yeah. However, I remember you standing out because you would always have this big black, she really did, viewers, honestly. She had this massive, what do you call it?
It was like a portfolio at the time. I was carrying it seemed like if I was carrying my life, but it was.
It really did appear like this. And I think that was one of the things that fascinated me about you. I thought, oh, who is this girl? I really need to get to know this person, and then when I, it really did seem, because you wouldn't go anywhere without it.
No.
You just wouldn't. It really was that you were on a pilgrimage.
Yeah.
To creative heaven or something.
And
tell me a bit about that.
You're right. It was something that was so close to me.
Yeah.
It almost seemed if I was carrying my whole creative ability in that case.
Yes.
I knew the journey I wanted to go on, and everything that I felt and wanted to do was in that case at the time. So I thought, I don't carry the case anymore.
Well, you have a moth.
People used to say, like, what are you carrying in that case? But I didn't really care what people thought at the time. I was so inspired to do my own thing. And I think that's very important for children to be able to be independent, to be able to have their own drive, even if you have to carry a big case.
So what was it that gave you that leadership spirit? Because I know that, children are bullied, and we hear about the bullying, and now even the suicidal, rates gone up. And, what was it that gave you that leadership spirit to defy even bullies or potential bullies? What was it?
I think, I remember there's a few things, I remember my dad always used to say to us, be an individual. He used to say these old West Indian proverbs.
Yes.
They didn't used to make much sense at the time, but I remember one thing that he used to say is, be an individual. And I always used to have this at the back of my head that I shouldn't follow what people are doing. I should be my own person, but there's also like the input of, I went to a church and, they used to like help us to practice our parts and do all these different plays. And that early input was also quite significant. Yeah.
So you did all of that in secondary school.
Yes.
And when did you start to think to yourself, actually, I can get paid for this?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think the big break came for me when I started doing my own research. People were feeding into my creative ability and they were believing in me, but now it came to the point whereby I was going to, I think, choose my subjects at school. And I started to think, where is this all leading? And I started to do reading. At the time, we had like world books.
I know it well. There's big encyclopedia for all you millennials out there who know nothing about research with your hands in a book, but only type in and go to Google. There was no Google. There was no Surrey. There was World Book. Childcraft, to be specific. Tell us a bit about that.
I was reading and I came across this product design and industrial design and all these different types of creative careers. And as I was reading, I thought, wow, this sounds just like me. I want to study industrial design, similar to product design, cross between product design and engineering. I thought, wow, this sums up all of my ability. And I think that was the first light bulb moment that went off.
That was your aha moment.
It literally went, this is me. So much so that I actually started to call the universities and find out a bit more and everything like that. So
you were calling universities at what age?
I think I probably was about 14 or 15 at the time. I started to just kind of touch base and think, okay, is this for me? What is this about? So that was a very, very important step for me. And it also gave me vision.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. So it almost seems as though now everything became somewhat clearer.
Yes.
There was a roadmap to success.
Of course.
Yes, so to speak. And so then you went on and you went to university.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Were there any other accolades along the way or any sort of standout prizes or whatever that consolidated that belief that yes, this is for me?
I would say that I mean, this is nothing to do with my creative. I suppose it is a creative ability in a way. I played an instrument.
And the violin.
Yes, I played the violin.
Yes, I remember.
And I would do examinations with my violin and pass my violin exams, and all of that fed into my creative process. It gave me more stamina to go on and pursue this creative career.
And again, I must ask you, because it's good now, it's great now. I mean, my daughter plays she's 8 now and she does the piano and we'll start the violin in September. But I've got to say, back then this was, we're talking old school guys, right? This was very unheard of for a black girl in South London on the ends to be carrying this big portfolio thing and now playing the violin.
Yeah, you're right. There was not many.
Did you realise that you were different?
I knew that you know, my mum was doing things differently, and she was encouraging us in a different way. But I remember her telling a very significant story as to why she did it. You know, and that was years later, not at the time.
Do tell us.
So just very quickly, you know, she said she went to assembly, the
Yes.
days that we had assembly.
Yes.
Children were sitting down and the teachers were asking the students, where did you go on holiday? What activities did you do? And, you know, the children of colour were not really responding, and they weren't telling the teachers what they had done, simply because they hadn't done much. And she said there is no way that she is going to bring up her children to have their head down. And she wanted us to be able to talk about the positive things that we were doing, swimming lessons, violin lessons, you know, all of those significant things, which is very important for the development of a child.
So what would you say to those skeptics out there who say, oh, that's very well, clearly she came from a middle class family, very well to do. You know, I don't have that. I'm a single mum, struggling, council estate. What would you say to that parent?
I would say, you know something, once you have a vision for your child, there are actually a lot of people who are willing to feed into your vision. There's actually a lot of scholarships, free scholarships. There is actually a lot of free funding available to nurture your child. I think if you have a vision, stick to that vision and feed into your child's future.
And let the universe do the rest.
Yes.
Okay, so we've gone from you going to university.
Yes.
And when you came out of university, I don't know if you're like me, but certainly the last day of university, I know all of us were like, right, okay, is this it? We're given 4 years now. Do we get a job?
Yes.
I was fortunate to get a job. But did you have any doubts?
Oh, I remember leaving university and I thought, wow, I've come out this comfort bubble.
Yes.
What am I going to do?
Yes.
You know, I remember feeling so lost and kind of like, wow, I'm in this big wide world, you know?
Yes.
And yeah, I don't know how university students
It's
feel
grown
now.
up time now.
Yeah, it's grown up time now.
Yes, grown folk time.
I remember applying for jobs in my field and everyone kept on saying, you need experience, and it was very traumatic. It wasn't the opportunities that are available now to do apprenticeships just weren't there. And I had to rethink. I had to rethink my whole creative career.
Wow.
And I had to think.
So what did that look like?
Oh, it looked, the journey that I went on a backwards journey. I went back to childhood and I thought to myself, what is it that I really love doing? And I said to myself, I love drawing. What career involves like drawing and doing like illustrations? And I discovered my pathway to graphic design. And that's how I became a graphic designer.
Wow.
Yeah. So I would encourage anyone that has that doubt in their mind. They've probably studied 4 years, 5 years.
Yes.
And, you know, they have their mind set on a particular career and they feel very heartbroken when, you know, the doors haven't opened. Go backwards to what you love. It could be something that you discovered that you used to do when you was a child. And there's nothing wrong with that process. You know,
it's interesting because you say go backwards, and you know, it's funny, but we tend as a society to think that if we even go back, it means it's a negative. It has a negative connotation, doesn't it?
Yes.
It means that, oh, time has been wasted.
Exactly.
It insinuates that, you know, oh, progress is not being made.
Yes.
But it's interesting you said, though, that that's actually where your love affair started.
Exactly.
And we somehow, as we get older, we lose our way. Would you agree?
I think so. You know, if you look at children are very innocent. You look at them and you look at their behaviors from when they are a child. And, you know, I'm no psychologist, you know, but I can say that I remember doing some things as a child that has not changed. My ability to draw, my ability to be creative and express myself. I was doing that when I was probably 3 and 4 years old. And I'm still doing that now.
And that's spontaneity.
I'm very spontaneous.
Yes.
And, you know, all of those things, you know, we don't lose that you know, we become adults and we do less of it, but we
Yes.
actually don't lose that at all.
So it brings me nicely actually onto the point of, you know, spontaneity and being spontaneous.
Yes.
Now, not only did you have a very eclectic career here in the UK,
Yes.
but you actually decided to take that leap of faith and actually do graphic design and teaching, etc., abroad.
Yes.
Now, who does that? You talk about coming out of a comfort bubble. Yes.
Yes.
Do tell us a bit about that journey when you had that, you know, sort of again another aha moments, because we do get aha moments along the way, don't we?
Yes. You know, it you know, I was, you know, I have a mentor. I had two at the time. But a very significant lady was mentoring me, and you know, I was just telling her that, you know, I feel like doing something different. I want to do something global, but I'm not quite sure what it is. And she actually taught me how to discover my journey. You know, and along the way, as I was discovering my journey, learning how to tell my own story confidently, I realized that actually, you know what, I think I actually want to live and work abroad. And, you know, I had written something like 5 years ago stating that I wanted to do that. And I came across it and I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. No more procrastinating. From this day onwards, I'm actually going to look for, you know, a job abroad or an opportunity abroad and just see what happens.
Wow.
And that was it.
And so the world or the universe opened up.
You could say so.
Yes.
You know, my universe in terms of my space.
Yes.
The space that I was in became a bigger global space. You know, and I think that's so important, because sometimes we limit ourselves because we think I was born in this country. You know, the opportunities are only in this country, but not necessarily so. The world is actually quite, is very open and it's very easy to get to different places.
Very connected now.
Yes, very well connected.
We're in a connected space. Now, tell me, because you say it as though it's pretty easy.
Yes.
Okay. But I know that it's not. And, you know, it takes first and foremost a different type of individual spirit.
Yes.
To say, I'm going to pack my bags, even though my mentor said, yeah, it's all right to do so. With all due respect, he or she's not the one doing it. You know, it's a big place out there. You know, where am I going to live? And, you know, what if I don't speak the language? I mean, you're going to have people out there saying this. Where do I start? And, you know, what if it doesn't work out? And what ifs?
Yes.
When did you say, this is it? This is the place, and this is the time?
Well, whenever I'm making a decision, I always ask myself, what's the worst that can happen?
Great.
You know, I think it's a very good thing to do. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Yes, what's the worst scenario?
The worst thing that can happen is that I didn't find work and I came back to London. And if that's what it was, then I thought I can cope with that. That's actually okay.
Okay, that's okay.
So, you know, with that, you know, I started to look for different opportunities and came across an opportunity in Dubai, and off I went.
Tell us about that. Tell us about Dubai, because oh my goodness, we hear of Dubai and you think, you know, it's sunny. You know, we think of these tall skyscraper of hotels.
Yes.
You know, we think of Arabs and sheikhs, and I'm almost expecting you to have some sheikh looking attire. But then you come back just looking yourself.
Looking the same. You know,
tell us a bit about the transition.
You know, I just think that sometimes we have ideas about different countries.
Yes.
And those ideas are just presumptuous thoughts.
Yes.
You know, I think until you actually go and travel to that country, you realize actually it's just the same as my country. Maybe people might dress different or speak a different language. But in actual fact, it's just another place to live and work. Maybe there might be some more sun, but
and more money,
and maybe more money as well. But you know, in essence, you know, it's just another opportunity in a different location, And I think that's the main thing to focus on, and not necessarily that you're actually moving your whole life over to a different space. It is just an opportunity, and opportunities are in different places, you know.
And so when you did the transition, you know, you have that general sort of, you know, where am I going to live? Where am I going to this? Where am I going to that? Whatever. Once you had actually decided to do it, what feedback did you have from your family or your loved ones?
Yes, I mean, my family was very, very supportive.
Oh, wow.
You know, very supportive, you know, and they said, you know, go for it. That's a wonderful opportunity for you to go and live and work elsewhere. One of my friends, you know, said to me, you know, you need to be careful, you know, because that might be a place for terrorism and not, you know, all of these were just scaremongering tactics, you know.
Yeah.
It's not that they're wishing me, you know, bad, but, you know, it's just they didn't have
projecting their own sort of
fears
ignorance and fears
upon me.
Yeah, I mean those I say those are the dream killers.
Yes,
you know,
the dream killers.
Yeah, they're the dream killers that come, and it's funny how life does do that.
Exactly,
it tests you. It tests your resilience. It tests your tenacity.
Yes,
you know, and it gets sometimes those closest to you
exactly
to be those naysayers and those dream killers.
Exactly,
but it's almost like you've been dodging these bullets for many years.
Yeah, you know.
And somehow you come out on top.
Exactly.
What does it take to do that?
I think you have to have your own vision, you know, as a, you know, when you're growing up as a child, people feed into your vision. They contribute towards your vision. They nurture you. They are the ones putting in. But at some point you have to take charge of your own vision and your own destiny and see where you want to go. And I think when you do that, great things could happen. Yeah.
So it seems very much like you metamorphosize from this childhood CEO.
Yes.
Who had that spark, that initial spark. Your teacher then said, yes, there is something in you. Yes. And then you really metamorphosized into this adult of a young woman who literally started and literally designing her life.
Yeah, you know, it's important.
What did it feel like to sorry to cut you, to hold the reins of your life,
you know,
in your hands?
It was a phenomenal experience. You know, I can't really describe, but it's almost like getting off the plane and feeling like a cool warm breeze hit you and you think, wow, I've landed in a new country, you know, or a new space, and you think, you know what, wow, this looks different, brilliant, and you think you don't know what's going to happen, but you feel so excited because you're on this journey.
The promise of what's to come.
Exactly. You know, I think that's so important. You know, this is not about traveling to a new location. This is about a particular mindset that you need to have to be successful in anything. You know, it's not about traveling to a new location. This is about you making promises to yourself and keeping them.
Tell us about that mindset. I'm really intrigued by that because, you know, I know that, you know, we're in a society whereby even social media, we're so influenced by the likes.
Yes.
And, you know, getting loves or whatever, likes, getting followers.
Yes.
You know, being part of this universal tribe.
Yes.
But it does take a specific and a particular mindset, as you say, to go against the grain.
Yes.
And design the life which you believe you were born to lead.
Yeah. And I think it's about knowing who you are as a person.
Yes.
You know, what is the point? You know, and don't get me wrong, I am not knocking social media.
Yes.
But, you know, this is just the other flip side of social media. What is the point of you being on social media, getting all these likes, but you don't even like yourself? What is the point of you, you know, going on social media and people send you all these hearts, but you don't even love yourself? What is the point of doing all of that? Because at the end of the day, when you click exit, you know, from your computer, it's you that's left.
You're faced with yourself in the mirror.
You're faced with yourself
100%.
again. So why not work on yourself, build up yourself, get to know who you are as a person. So for example, what you like, what you dislike, where you want to go, what your vision is for yourself. Why not do that? And if you do go on social media, if somebody presses like, then you know you
It's
like
just a
yourself.
bonus.
It is just a bonus.
It's
It
just
is
a
not
bonus.
something that you are relying on.
To get through your day.
Yes. Yeah.
I've got to again be devil's advocate here. There are some out there that will say it's all right for her. She came from a good family.
Yes.
I've got kids. I can just about scratch my back.
Yes.
You know, where does that person start? How do they even begin to think about liking themselves when they've got mouths to feed?
Yeah,
what would you say to that person?
And I sympathize for, people who are literally using all of their financial means, all of their emotional means to look after, maybe a child or children or even loved ones around them. I really do sympathize. However, I mean, we have to look at what's out there as well. If you have a personal vision for your family, as I said before, there are actually agencies and organizations that are actually willing to help you and support you with fulfilling, activities that you want to do or anything like that. So I would say don't give up. I know it's difficult, but there are actually people that can help you and organizations there to help you.
And so for you, how did you find the settling period? Were there people on the other side in Dubai who assimilated you into the community?
No, not particularly. I just went into this new community, and I actually remember just walking around and getting a feel for what people were like, and I would visit places and try and immerse myself in the culture and learn about the culture as much as possible. I remember going to like cultural exhibitions and trying to understand maybe the history of the place or an area. So I think it's when you go to a new place, wherever it is, even if you're on a holiday, try and use that as a way of immersing yourself into a culture, and it's so much easier when you have to do a big move.
Yes. So when you after you'd settled in and everything, was there any point where you thought, I miss home? And have I done the right thing? Did you ever second guess yourself at any point?
Oh yes, there were many times.
That's natural.
That is a natural feeling. I doubt if anyone who moves abroad, doesn't think like that at some point. You think, oh my goodness, what have I done? I've left the comfort of my own country where I know where everything is. I know where to go. And you do think to yourself, what am I doing? But then again, you always go back to your vision. And I think that's the thing that keeps you moving forward, because you know that the life that you're living is part of your vision, which is that's why, as I said before, it's so important to get to know what your vision is.
It's really interesting, because I often say, to even the young people that I coach as well, and various, I've coached various CEOs and SVPs, and one thing that there is a commonality that goes across cultures and across backgrounds is literally it's over 400 million sperms.
Yes.
For you to be here, for me to be here.
Exactly.
Yes, whether I'm black, white, purple.
Yes.
Over 400 million sperms. Yet you're here.
Exactly.
And I'm here.
Yes.
Which is the biggest race that we will ever have, and it's the most competition we'll ever have at any one given time. So I always say, surely then you were born to do something great.
Yes. We were all
was the
born
creative
to
arts.
Yeah.
Is that what you were born to do?
Yes, most definitely. That actually runs in my whole family. It's not just, it doesn't just belong to me. If it was just about me, then I probably would have given up. But it's something that's actually in my family. So I almost feel like responsible. Like that's my responsibility to pass this creative ability down to the next generation, you know. So I kind of see it like almost like running a relay. You know, those who have gone before now have passed on the baton to me, and then I now have to pass the baton on to the next generation.
So there seems to be an element of a duty of care.
Of course. We have a
Wow.
duty of care not only to ourselves, but for our community.
Now it's interesting because they say, you know, God's gift then to you is that gift.
Yes.
And then your gift back to God is when you utilize, number one, you recognize.
Yes.
Because it's so busy. It's a busy space that we're in this modern society.
Of course.
So to take the time to actually, number one, recognize what is my gift.
Yes.
What does that take to spend the time with self to take your head up long enough?
Yeah,
to do that?
You know, that's a really important question. You know, the discovery process, it is not done in one day. And, you know, I think it's over a lifetime. Does it really matter that a child doesn't know what they want to do? It really doesn't matter, because you evolve. You wear many different hats.
Yes, we grow.
So I think it's about embracing the journey, and you will discover what you want to do, and you'll discover where you want to go, and all those things. Yes.
I love it when you said that, you know, there's that sense of responsibility.
Yes.
Do you think we've lost that as a generation now? Do you think we've lost that?
I think it's not necessarily lost, but I think it's sometimes buried. It's hiding. It is there, you know. So when I say it is there, I mean individuals have that sense of responsibility, but collectively, I think we can do more. So we have responsibility to inspire others, but sometimes the inspiration just remains with one individual. But I think if we have this kind of way of spreading, you know,
like a global vision,
like a global vision or community vision, I think we would do better. We would do, you know, much better as a nation, you know, as a people. That we'll have so much to give, and yeah.
So what's next?
I mean,
as though you haven't taken over the entire world.
Maybe I need to take over the world.
But what's next for you?
You know, I think what's next for me is probably exploring some other countries. You know, I've always been a traveler. I've always loved the feeling of traveling.
Yes.
You know, I would love to.
We say that nomadic gene is in us as a people, isn't it?
Of course, the nomadic gene is in us as a people. Our parents went from the Caribbean to the UK, and we are doing that as well. You know, but I think what's also really important is finding ways to feed back to the community. I think that's really my next step. You know, I really want to find ways to actually feed back into the community or the next generation, and give them something to run with. You know,
what would that look like? Because I know that you also have a very deep love affair with the culinary arts.
Of course.
I know you do.
I like cooking.
Yes. And it's specifically vegan, isn't it?
That is right.
Now, that's a very popular thing nowadays, but I actually can vouch for you and say that for years you've been speaking about vegan. And I mean, you converted me literally. I was aspiring to be like you with that regard, even though I've always been healthy.
Yes.
Tell me, you know, what does that look like for you?
You know,
how would that morph into giving back in the community?
You know, I think, you know, for me, I see a vision of, you know, making the next generation a lot more healthy.
Yes,
you know,
healthier, yes.
You know, we find like in these days some young people experiencing some, you know, health problems that perhaps they can not experience so much of if they cared for their diet. So I think that, you know, educating young people to eat a bit more healthily, but in a creative and very fun way, probably is where my heart would be the next step.
Teaching food and
teaching about healthy eating, but in a very, very, you know, fun way.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're making me very hungry, Miss Lydia Simon. And I actually can vouch. I've tasted her food and her bacon is phenomenal. Lydia, how do people get a hold of you?
I'm on Facebook. If you want to contact me on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm not currently.
And that's what at Lydia Simon. What is that?
Yeah, it's Lydia, just Lydia Simon. You can
spell that for everyone?
LYDIASIMON.
Okay,
yes.
Lydia Simon.
Yes.
Now, Lydia, I know also I'm going to ask a cheeky question because I know that there are
Okay,
some,
come on.
I know that there are, if there was a barometer here, it's going to start getting hot, even though we're going to close in a second. But I know that there must be some wonderful, singletons out there thinking, is this woman single? Is this woman up for grabs? What would you say to those suitors?
I would say to them, please look.
Look where? They are looking.
People ask,
should they not look?
To be honest, people ask me that all the time. And, I always say to them, Lydia will always be open to opportunity. And when the opportunity comes towards her, I will embrace it.
You seem like a consummate politician.
Yes, that's what I would say.
Lydia, on that note, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in tonight's CEO chair.
And thank you for inviting me.
You are most welcome.
Yes.
Join me next week where we'll have another guest who is, definitely showing us how to take the reins of your life and literally, how to take the reins of your life and literally design your life and elevate your vision. Next week, Tuesday, 8 p.m. only on Starr Radio, the CEO.